Are you tired of hearing the phrase, just be positive? It's all good. Akuna Matata, or whatever they say nowadays. I'm not saying that we need to be so negative and so just seeing the gloomy gray of the world around us like we're walking around like Eeyore. I ain't saying that. But I'm also not saying that everything is all sunshine and rainbows and we should only focus on the good things and never talk about the bad things. Forcing positivity can really backfire. If you aren't focusing on the real concerns, it's not going to be helpful. If you ignore the real concerns, it's not going to be helpful. But also, letting negativity just drain the momentum is going to be helpful too. So, what do? How do you find that balance within that and stay real and create a culture of constructive engagement where people know where they stand and how to engage within the environment? And you're addressing and acknowledging what the real concerns are without derailing the team's engagement. Welcome to Shift Your Lens, where we are tackling real leadership problems and challenges from the middle management perspective. My name is Ray White, a 12-year middle manager, leadership development coach, community builder, and the writer of the Leaders Lens newsletter. And today we're going to talk about how do we create a healthy team mindset that can balance the honesty with the optimism without looking too toxic in your positivity. Great Places to Work talks about how important psychological safety is for your team, and it's a high predictor in the performance of your teams. But when our teams start feeling like they have to fake being positive, it doesn't make the engagement that great. You kind of decline your ability to truly get to the root cause of certain issues because everybody just has a smile on their face and all they want to do is talk about what's going great. But we are not wanting to be the leaders who are silencing the concerns. That's not the goal. We do want to be able to create the space to have people talk about the problems, but we also don't want to fall off to the other side of the spectrum where all we talk about is the issues and nobody is talking about what is going well with the institution. So what do? Here are 3 practical ways that I work to process and think about when it comes to shaping and framing this healthy team culture mindset that doesn't lean all the way toxic in positivity and all the way toxic in negativity. The first thing we got to do is create the space where the concerns can be voiced, but in a way that is solution oriented. One of the things that I love to do is have one-on-ones where I say, hey, this is your space. I don't want to dictate or change anything because I know as humans, we just need some place to vent, right? But I want to set the environment to say, hey, you can vent here, but if you want me to solve the problem, just let me know. Otherwise, let me give you the space to vent so that way you can go back out there and go get them again in a way that is helpful and conducive to you. Now, sometimes that may mean that I turn into a pseudo therapist or a counselor or what have you, and that's fine. And I'm not out here trying to solve their problems or get deep into their psychological or emotional state. But I do want to let them know that, hey, while you're here, if you just need a moment, you can have a moment. If you want to problem solve through that moment, I'm happy to help you too. But let's make sure that we establish the environment and space so you feel confident and comfortable to come to it and know what is expected and what's expected of me as well. So that simple question of, hey, do you want to vent or do you want to problem solve helps frame the person who is experiencing a challenge for them to frame it to say, okay, I just need a moment just to say this. I'm good. I just need a moment, right? That small questions helps us meet them where they are. And it helps keep the conversation going to get them stuck out of the negativity space as well if they're ready to move to a solution-oriented state. The second thing is one of my favorites. Focus on what you can control. The need is great. There are so many things that we can accomplish. There are so many things that we can put our emphasis and mindset towards. But as Stephen Covey talks about, there's only a small circle of control that we have and a circle of influence, a circle that we can control. And within that circle of control, we need to understand that there are only a very few things that we can do in that space. And actually, I do have a newsletter that talks about how you can control your space better and goes through the 5 different frameworks of what you can control within that space. And I'll link that in the show notes. But what the key thing in that conversation is that we are helping encourage staff members to know that there are areas that they can particularly focus on that's going to be conducive for their growth. How they see the work, how they see themselves, how the effort they put in the work, how they choose to engage and choose to communicate, all the things are within their control. If they dwell on things that they can't, it will continue to erode and they will feel like they are unable to get anything done. And that frustration can shift to action when you put emphasis on the things that you can control. So, first thing, you create the environment in a space where they could feel, they can express their concerns and drive the solution. The second thing is that we have a conversation in the areas that we can control and focus on that. And then the third thing is to set the expectation of how to share the frustration. This one's key. I plan on doing a video or newsletter talking about emotional intelligence and emotional regulation, because that's important for all of us as humans. So that way we don't just blow off the gasket anytime something doesn't go our way. How we handle frustration and how we share that frustration is huge in how we show up and how we engage with our one-ups or rec reports, our peers within the workspace. And like this goes back to at the first point is I want to create the space where they can come to and air out their frustrations, and if they in a way that helps them grow. Sometimes you get into environments, whether it's with stakeholders or with your peers, where you air out the frustrations and it creates a toxic or creates a different environment, or like it that shifts the way that the culture is driven. Because unfortunately, if all you're doing is complaining to your teammates and whatnot, and they don't have anything to do with it, they're like, I don't really want to hang out with that person, because that's all they just complain all the time, right? Or they're not actively working towards finding a solution to the work that they do. It can really impact team morale in a negative way if the team members are airing out their grievances within a team setting, but not delivering it up to somebody within the organization who has the authority to do something about it. So making sure that you as a leader are creating that space, again, back to number one, but then helping coach and guide that person to say, hey, I'm happy to create this space for you here, because this is something that we can create that's safe for us. But be mindful of how you share that with your teammates and your peers, because that will affect the relationship that you have with them and the work to get done. And truthfully, when I started off as in my current role, leading 32 staff members, I remember having a lot of these conversations with staff to say, hey, you are knowledgeable, your perspective critique is on point, but how you're sharing it and where you're sharing it needs to slightly change. I'm not saying that you're not wrong, but I'm saying where and how is appropriate, so that we can ensure that it's guiding people towards a solution in the space and not creating more erosion within the team culture. And that way they know, hey, if I have a problem, I'm gonna go talk to Ray. Or if I have serious frustration, I'm gonna talk to Ray, because Ray's gonna help navigate this, and it's not gonna impact the team in a different way and shape the morale. So create the space, but move towards solution. Be able to focus on what you can control, and set expectations of how you can share that frustrations. Are 3 different ways that you can work to navigate what a healthy team culture could look like, and guide the person who's experienced some level of frustration or feels like they always got to be positive. Give them some realistic understanding of, hey, you're human. We all have emotions and feelings, and this is how we can navigate that within the confines of the workspace, so you can do better, so we can do better, and our team can continue to excel in a healthy way. So as always, as we talk about this shift in the lens, we always got to talk about the posture that we have in creating this shift, right? So if we are continuing to move ourselves to create a healthy team mindset and a healthy team culture that's not always toxic in its positivity, right? Our posture has to be acknowledging the real concerns without judgment. We have to also redirect energy towards solutions. And we have to protect psychological safety of the workplace while maintaining the performance standards of the team. And the posture that we have set as we create that lens and take action is necessary for our keys to success as leaders. So there you go, the 3 different ways where you can create a healthy team culture without sliding into toxic positivity. What we want to make sure is that we are not ignoring problems. Problems are going to happen. In the lean management system, they say problems are golden. That's important. How we highlight the problems while shaping our teams to engage them in a way that is constructive and encouraging them to feel supported, safe, and move towards action through our leadership. So be sure that you practice the 3 tactics. And I want to hear from you. What are the ways that you are leading your teams to create a healthy culture where we are talking about the problems in a real way and it's constructive and guiding them to success? Let me know. Drop that in the comments. Also, if you're a mid-level leader and you got a challenge that you want to have discussed through this Shift Your Lens series, I have a link in the show notes where you can fill out a survey that will highlight what your leadership challenge is, and we can share it on the show. I'll give my 2 cents, my experience, and some research that I've done, and it will guide all of us because we're not doing this alone. We need each other and want to support each other through this leadership journey that we're on. So let's do it together and reshape our lens.